So I'm going to play with a couple of different colors this time. And also, I'm going to change the pattern. So we can make pattern connections too. Kids love patterns. Our brains love patterns. We are pattern-seeking organisms. So I'm just going to change the pattern. Instead of just going over, under, what if I went over twice and then under once? So over twice, under once, over twice, and under once. And I'll do that again, but I'll start after going under once. So under there. And so it's not quite a checkerboard anymore. Let's see, I'm going to change colors too. Let's see, so this one, how would I do this? Go over and then under. And I'll do that over twice. Under, over twice, and under. So this is turning into kind of a stair-step kind of pattern. There's lots of variety, lots of things, even just with simple horizontal and vertical lines, just a lot of different patterns that can develop. Yeah, and we could continue that, could change it up. I could go, could do the opposite, go under twice and over once, and under twice and under once. So lots of different things to do. And I think I'm going to hand it back to Aileen now, and she's going to talk about even another variation we can do.
Thank you, Scott. I think one of the things that we really try to encourage the teachers and students who work with us is that curiosity piece. And I think you explored that a little bit. Like, what are you curious about? What are you curious about trying or changing that might be different from what we're doing now or the basic structure that you have? And another way that you can change weaving is just looking at the ways that you can cut. And so hopefully this will work. I'm going to share my screen just real quick of something that I tried was that I bought a used book, went to used book sale, bought some used books, and one of the books that I bought was just on black and white sketches. And so I looked at those pages and thought, what could I do with something like this? I love to do origami, but I was thinking about the paper weaving because we were exploring that. And so I cut, you can say I cut that foundation in the back or that paper in not just parallel lines, but these lines that kind of went out, kind of an hourglass shape. So we could do that, or we could do the other opposite of that. But the way that you cut those in can also affect the way that you weave. And you can see, like, you can see that almost black and white drawing or sketch at the back. It looks like a thing of some trees, some shadows. And then I wove just red paper into that. So not only reusing materials in different ways, but exploring the different ways that we could cut and not only the strips and the patterns that are there, but just all these curious ways that we can do it. I really appreciated the way that you showed you don't have to even cut the lines straight. You can cut them with a little wave or a little pattern, and you can end up with these really beautiful pieces at the end and talk about the different variables that were changed, or how did you get that end product. And that's such an important piece in mathematics, is explaining our thinking, explaining our strategy, or the journey that we took to get to that end result. So some people in the chat have been sharing that they've done paper weaving before. And I encourage you, if you have your picture right now of what you're working on, you can share some pictures in the chat. That'd be great.
Yeah, Andrea shared a picture of free-form room weaving. I love it. Yeah, and we've done some of that with a Head Start group that we have worked with in the past. Of here's some oh gosh, what did we call it? Not painter's tape, but like a streamer, and just go weave your way around the swing set, or weave it around your body, weave it in and out of your fingers. Lots of fun free-form kind of things to do.
Fun ways to do it. And then just like weaving into a shape that you want to get. So here's, you know, some pieces, and then I think I cut after that, cut it into a heart shape. So different ways that we can weave. I know people woven probably with fabric as well. So that's another thing that we can weave with.
I think since we've got a little time, I'm going to do a non-parallel weave. Let's see what we come up with. Gotta change my camera back.
And someone shared weaving with ribbons. So that's a great one for the little ones, because they don't have to cut strips. You already have a strip essentially with the ribbons themselves. It's great.
Yeah. I'm just going to kind of make some random non-parallel cuts here, making the warp. There we go. Now, you've probably already figured out, but I like leaving this top section. It just helps hold the warp together. But it's also perfectly fine to cut all the way through. It's just a little bit harder to handle that way. So I'm going to use some of my other strips and see what this ends up looking like. I like, Aileen, that you talked about cutting pages of an old book. I had an old record album. I'm aging myself, of course, but I cut the album jacket apart and did some weaving that way. And that kind of turned into a fun project. Finding an old map. You can cut the map into strips and weave. I think it'd be fun. You could do weaving with poetry. Maybe if there's a page of text and it could be cut apart. And it's fun to think about, you know, trying to get that in there. You know, selecting which words you want covered and which words you want uncovered, and kind of a neat way to do a found poem with weaving. so that only the words you want stay visible. I didn't cut smooth enough. That was getting caught a little bit. There we go. Yeah, so it'll turn into kind of a neat checkerboard pattern. Anybody have any questions or comments? Ooh, I like that pink and green one. Yeah, nice. Yeah, Michelle, I do too. I like when the lines are not straight, which also takes the pressure off of, especially young children. They don't feel like they have to make everything perfect, and sometimes it's those imperfections that present just surprising ideas. It's always fun when you make something and you're surprised at, how it comes out.
And it's a great idea to just scaffold. I mean, maybe you're using the ribbon so children get used to the motor skills of just weaving. And then maybe you want to practice the motor skill of cutting, because cutting is one of those skills they build when they're young, in using scissors. And so then you want to add that piece into it. So a lot of ways to like scaffold this for younger children. I've even seen like the chain link fence and weaving maybe flagging tape or something through that, making a pattern. And that's more of like a community project where kids can all work on the same weaving project together.
Yeah, you drive drive around and you see a lot of schools will put things in the fence with cups, and it could just be done with weaving as well.
Edith put in the chat that this is so relaxing.
Yeah.
And it really is. I feel like it's one of those emotional, like soul enriching times where you can just explore, maybe play some music while everyone's doing their weaving project. It feels that way for adults. I'm sure that it could be that same way for children.
Yeah. Renee, you talked about weaving with paper plates and yarn. Another great activity, another just variation. Yeah. Weave around in circles, different patterns. I'm going to share my another slide here and just think about some of the connections that can be made. If we think about the grid of the weave with the warp and the weft, it's not too dissimilar from musical notation, or at least what we would call traditional Western music notation. There's lots of different cultures who notate music in different ways. But yeah, just thinking about how the notes are on the grid, and can really kind of be thinking about how that weaves into a sound. Like we talked about coding, weaving really is a form of coding. What's visible, what's not visible, what's on, what's off. It's certainly a no-tech kind of coding. We always talk about no-tech and low-tech codes. So this is a good way to do that. And then there's some little bunny rabbits there. So like Aileen was saying, there's different ways to weave in different shapes. It doesn't have to be square. It doesn't have to be rectangular. So just lots of different varieties.
You can have children extend the pattern that they see woven already. What comes next? I mean, you can have them replicate a pattern, talk about, look at this weaving project, what kind of pattern do you think they used? Because patterns are so much about what mathematics is. And I think that visual entry point for young children is so powerful for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Patricia mentioned a creative curriculum, and a story that you read about a loom. There's a lot of really good children's literature that involves weaving. Aileen, what was the one that we read the one time? The Rainbow Weaver?
The Rainbow Weaver, that's a really great book.
Yeah.
It's all about definitely some cultural awareness, but also reusing materials. And the young girl in that story is an entrepreneur, really. She's using materials that are just the debris that is actually making her neighborhood messy, but she gets this debris, she cleans it, and she weaves some beautiful mats out of it. So that's a great story.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, how many things do we throw away that could be woven with?
Mm-hmm.
What if we did a weave with an old pizza box? That might be fun to do. Now I'm gonna have to go get pizza today.
Susan says that she used weaving during the clothing study with her preschools.
Nice.
That's a great way to integrate it.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, just so much culture and inclusivity of recognizing and honoring different cultural backgrounds and the weaves that they do, and even bringing in items from home that could be woven with, or even just looking around the home and finding, what's interesting is I found that once I started really looking at weaving, it's everywhere. It's just all over the place. So, I mean, I'm wearing weave right now, like probably all of us are.
And intergenerational, because we probably have seen someone in our family who's done some crocheting or knitting, and the ways that they're using other tools to weave, not just their hands, but following different patterns to weave the yarn with itself is pretty fascinating. I think it could be a great way to connect intergenerational to a family and pass on some skills that are still valuable. I mean, I think there was this swimmer at the Olympics who was weaving while he was waiting for his next race, and that was a way for him to just be calm and get himself ready to go out there and swim again.
Yeah, Steve, great comment. Yeah, animals weave. They weave their nests. Beavers weave their dams, absolutely. So it's all over, even in nature. Flora, I saw a comment that you made earlier about poetry and wanting to hear more about that. What I was thinking is, with a found poem, like if you had just a page from a book, and blacked out all the words you didn't want, and only left a few visible, is kind of one way to do a found poem. And instead of taking a marker and crossing out words, what if you blocked off words by weaving?
Mm-hmm.
So, when the strip goes over the words, you can't see them. So, students could make some artistic choices that way. So, Tina, I like your class group weaving. That's awesome. We've got about 5 minutes left, and that's kind of what we had for you today. Hopefully you enjoy just the rest of your day, and maybe weave during some other sessions. I actually find that it helps me focus. It helps me pay attention. Doing something simple with my hands.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And we just want to invite you to visit our website where you'll find a one-pager on paper weaving. And this one-pager gives a kind of an overview of what paper weaving is, but it also gives you some things to watch for as children are engaging in this activity, questions to ask. We have several one-pagers around different topics, but it includes weaving, and I think there's some circular weaving as well with yarn.
Yeah. Yeah, I see people are putting some other links. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and thanks for interacting. Yeah, lots of weaving. You know, certainly this isn't anything we invented, but it's just great to talk about and think about. Think about all the varieties and changes you can make. Yeah, so thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the symposium.
Thank you.
Glad you had fun, Sherry. Thanks for joining. Yeah, we can stay on, and if anybody has questions or wants to chat.
Absolutely.
Oh, great picture, Aileen. Thanks for sharing that. All right. Well, our countdown timer has run out. I
Yep.
think we're done. Mhm.
Do we exit now? This one. I didn't see any.
Yep. Thank you, Aileen. Good
Thank
job.
you.
See you soon.